I'm William Graper, and this is The Recovering Elitist, a show that explores the space between who we appear to be and who we actually are. The tension, our transformations, and the truth behind success. Plain Jane, welcome to The Recovering Elitist. I have really been looking forward to this one because I think drag is universal. To me, it's about the masks that we all wear to survive and shine and be seen. And I know I've had my own version of that, and some of those masks have been prettier than others, performing success, perfection, and I'm constantly trying to understand how to honor that without totally letting it take over. What I love about you, and what I think so many of us fell in love with watching you ascend on RuPaul's Drag Race, is that you have this very sharp, campy, and confident way about you, but you're also really honest about the parts of you that hurt and what it takes to turn that pain into performance. So today I want to talk with you about the power that Plain gives you and the person that Andrew is when the makeup comes off. Starting at the beginning, can you tell me a little bit about what it was like growing up in suburban Boston to a Russian Jewish family?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. We're just diving right in, aren't we?
We are diving right in.
Well, let's see. If my memory still serves me well after so many years of just like, hard, crazy partying, I would say I had a pretty, happy childhood. Just an innocent, happy-go-lucky Russian Jewish boy who had no idea about what drag was. I wasn't raised with any sort of LGBT anything. So I wasn't privy to like any sort of queer stuff. I had, very by the book, fairly conservative Russian parents. And I remember growing up, I really did feel kind of stifled. And I felt a little, oh my God, I'm really going to expose myself. I felt a little bit friendless. I was a bit of a loner and a floater because I would be fine. Like I would socially interact with kids at school, but I didn't really allow myself to form any meaningful connections outside of that, or like that would transcend the boundaries of just like those confined spaces of the school. Like I didn't have any friends outside of that because I didn't really feel comfortable letting anyone in, really. And I remember feeling that way since as early as middle school. You know what I mean?
I think that's such a important experience that so many gay kids, including myself, have this like inner world and then the outer world. And you talk about that mix of Slavic that critical lens and then the suburban repression. And I'm curious how that showed up for you.
I mean, it really defined my childhood and my coming of age for a long time because again, suburbia is like a bubble. And even though I lived fairly close to like the metropolitan Boston area, I wasn't really like in the city that often. I was just confined to this little bubble, this little space. I guess it's true to like how a lot of us grow up if we are raised in like a suburban community. Like we just know that one bubble and that's it. We see the same people. It might expand from time to time, from like year to year, but not really. And I feel like that was really the core of why I felt so repressed, stifled, whatever, like caged in. I was in this small bubble and I had no escape from like these people who growing up I felt like were judging me, even though it's probably just like more so of like an internal battle within myself than like really that I projected outward than like really a reflection of how people actually felt. But, you know, so definitely growing up in this confined space like didn't really allow me to feel comfortable in like expressing myself. And, I feel like it's definitely fast forwarding ahead several many years, I feel like it translated to me wanting to completely like break free of those confines and just completely go crazy and start doing drag. Drag was like the complete opposite of what I experienced growing up. It was like complete freedom from any sort of like social confines and constraints, like not even talking about where I grew up. It's like a complete departure from what society sort of like the pattern society expects you to follow into adulthood.
And before drag, as a boy, you were doing ballroom dancing, which I think is just fabulous. And I'm curious, did you have support for your creative endeavors as a kid? Because I'm assuming that somebody had to take you there and do that. And so it takes a lot of courage, I think, in a suburban town to do something like ballroom dancing. It's not exactly heteronormative or masculine in a way. So, like, what gave you the courage to do that?
My parents were kind of like throw everything at the wall and see what sticks for their kids. Ballroom dance was like pretty prevalent in like our little Russian circle. Like all the Russian kids were signing up for ballroom dancing. So I started ballroom dancing when I was like maybe like 5 years old. And it's something that ended up sticking a little bit more than other activities because, hello. But yeah, so I feel like my instructors saw that I kind of had like a bit of a talent for it. And
Mm,
of course, my parents saw that as well and like encouraged me to pursue this thing that I could be potentially successful at. I feel like Russian culture, it's not considered like effeminate to dance in a lot of Eastern European like cultures. It's not, they're conservative in other ways for sure, but I feel like it's kind of more American to like look at something like dance and be like, oh, that's feminine and gay. You know what I mean?
You went on to say that drag was really a salvation for you. And I'm curious, the first time you did drag, when was that? Was it plain Jane from day one, or was it a progression into who became plain Jane?
I mean, drag for sure is a journey. You're unraveling this identity in the same way that you would your own, coming into your own person, like growing up. So I always had the name Plain Jane. I feel like Plain Jane has definitely been far more consistent since from the beginning. Of course, like I've grown and evolved, like as people we all do. And with that, my drag character has as well. Plain Jane was just an unhinged slut since day one, and she always wanted to bend over and show her ass to the world. It's funny because I feel as though, as Andrew, it took some time and it's still taking some time to like acquire sort of like the confidence to like move through the world as me. But with Plain Jane, it's crazy too because now it's like a complete transformation. But back then, honey, all I had was like a tucking panty and a crop top and some mascara. And I really thought like that's really all it took for the walls to come down and for me to just start acting crazy. So
Mhm.
um I feel like it's interesting that you asked that because I feel like even though, of course, my character has evolved, my drag has evolved, as the aesthetic elevates, as time goes by, we figure out more and more about ourselves, and that definitely translates to drag. But I feel like Plain Jane has definitely been more of a consistent vibe, I would say, than me as Andrew, I guess.
So does plain Jane allow you to unlock parts of Andrew that Andrew cannot express as Andrew?
Oh, 100%. I feel like that's the general sort of like effective drag. I mean, we put on this mask almost, and it allows us to step outside of our day-to-day personas and step into something more, something a little
Mhm.
a little more extra. So yeah, of course.
But what is it about, you're not gonna speak for all of humanity right now, you speak for yourself, but what is it about our fear of expressing those extra parts of ourselves when we're not dressed in drag or creating an online Instagram persona? Like, why can't we just be who we are without that?
That's a very layered philosophical question.
Welcome to the show.
Social stigmas, social rules and norms, you know what I mean? Like we have just set up these unspoken sort of rules. It's interesting, like I just watched the movie Poor Things with Emma Stone, and I it made me think of how like she's so like unhinged in that movie, right? Because she's just like experiencing the world for the first time. And it made me think of how we could be just living our lives and we don't know what the next fucking person has going on in their lives. You know what I mean? I'm walking on the street. Nobody really knows that I'm a drag queen, except for if you do, honey. Thank you. If you're a fan, you could be working your 9 to 5, sitting at a desk with somebody, and the person next to you, honey, is him as lovely little Steve. And at night, he's like a crazy, like fisting bottom. You know what I mean? Like So where was I going with this? Well, essentially, I feel like I went off on a tangent there, but
I love it. Keep going. It was really like why you think we can't express. Yeah.
yeah, they're just these like unspoken rules where we know that we all have these instinctual carnal desires. We have, our spirits want to be free, and we all express ourselves in certain ways, but socially we can't just dance like we dance like at home looking in the mirror. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's just the way that society is. And I feel like drag just allows you to step out of that box for a second, which is why it's so exciting for me personally. You know what I mean? And I can be like so much more unhinged than what I could typically do just like this. But interestingly enough, like you said, like it does really sort of like open your perspective on that. And it allows you to be like, well, if I can do this in drag and, express myself and be feminine and crazy and sexy and just off the chain a wild girl, then and be received fairly positively for it, then why can't I translate some of that energy to out of drag? And that's where you start to unlock the secrets of the universe that nobody truly really gives a fuck. Everybody's more concerned with what they themselves are doing, than what anybody else is doing. But it's still a process. It's still a journey. We're all operating based on our survival instinct at the end of the day. So
I think what you're touching on is Drag Race really does kind of open up this fourth dimension for the average person to watch someone else live out loud, and gives them that permission to say, maybe I can do a little bit more of that myself. I was also thinking about dance, and I was thinking about drag, and about how they seem like they're about control and precision over your body in a way. And I think that drag also really demands kind of a chaos and a freedom. So I'm curious, like, how you balance that control and precision that you have to have as a great drag queen, and sort of the free spiritedness of it all.
life is a balance of those two things, isn't it? And in this case, life imitates art, honey. I feel like drag is, for me, can be taking like your most unhinged thought, which is where the chaos lies, and packaging it in a more controlled and precise way to make it appealing to an audience, as opposed to only as an inside joke within your own mind. You know what I mean? So,
Well said.
yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Just thought of it just now. Um,
That's like a great comedian does that. To be able to take the craziness in your head and say, let me package this in a way that sells. That's like real professionalism.
Absolutely. And with drag, we take it to like, several steps further, because there's like a visual aspect, there's like a real performance aspect to it. So as an audience member, I can't speak for everybody else, but I certainly look for things that are beautiful, that catch my eye, that are visually spectacular. So I feel like that is important to bring to the stage with drag. And that's what makes a good drag queen. Not only if you have those great ideas, but if you can sell them and entertain an audience. I think that's really the key to drag, is like taking everything that's silly, goofy, and crazy and unhinged, and those amazing, unique, expressive thoughts brewing in your mind, and setting them free into the world. And I feel like that's probably true of a lot of art, but I feel like drag does it in a very unique way that incorporates so many mediums, that I don't know, it just really appeals to me and so many other queer people for that reason, I'm sure. Yeah.
Anytime I've ever done drag, I have been a nasty, nasty bitch. Like, something about drag just makes me the bitchiest version I've ever found in myself. And I feel like I related to you on your season because you were labeled the villain. We were also labeled the trade. So I'm going to give you the sort of the sweet and the sour.
Am
But
I?
ultimate, you were, yeah, you were the trade of your season. Yeah.
Okay.
So you were labeled the villain, and ultimately, like, this show is called The Recovering Elitist because, like, my elitist is sort of my villain. It's sort of like my sharp tongue, the thing I use to sort of keep people away. As the villain, Can you just tell me a little bit about what's going through your head the moment you are reading Your Girlfriend Next to You?
Well, sometimes I'm not thinking. Sometimes it's just like an instinct. Like I just, it's like a feral dog or cat, just lashing out without thinking, just acting purely on instinct. I think it's probably evolutionary, but reading is fundamental, of course. It's part of drag. Drag is like biting, and you want to have that kind of rapport. It's like inherent to drag, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I guess this is just like you said, it's your thing too. When you're in drag, you feel entitled to be a bitch. That's the elitist in you, honey. It's also the elitist in me, mama.
Well, when you're stunning, you're stunning. You know what I mean? So you need to make it clear.
That's the thing. That's the thing. You, of course, I don't take my drag seriously, but I do take drag as an art form a little more seriously. And, I feel like I don't gatekeep. It's important to uphold a certain, standard in order for things to advance, in order for progress to occur. It's just where I come from. I come from a place of tough love. I don't come from a place of my parents, telling me, "Oh, honey, I love you so much." No. Okay? It's
Yeah.
eat your eat your cold smoked cow tongue and go out there and, work your puss. And that's also the rapport I have with my like closest friends as well. I feel like it's interesting because I also see like at least public facing friendships that they're very like, oh my God, that's my best friend, and they hype them up. Like I feel like me and my friends, we hype each other down. It's just fun for us to pick every single thing apart until we just are screaming at each other, and we hate each other, but then 2 seconds later we're fine and we're good and we're sisters. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I feel like it's just queer culture, honey, and it's just drag. You got to get into it. And baby, if you can't if you can't take it, then you can't take it. It's giving cha.
Okay. So let's just dovetail into this other part of the conversation that I want to have with you, which is the desperate desire to be liked. Because on the other side of reading people and tearing them down, which is a love language for sure,
Mhm.
there's the deep desire to like get it right, have people like you. And I'm speaking for myself. I've heard you say there is that desire to be liked and to leave people with that experience of enjoying you and being like, she's a bad bitch. So, are there ever moments where you're like, wow, that really stung?
Do you know what? It really depends. I feel like I haven't in person, like I haven't faced any sort of like lasting injury in person from anyone's reads. I feel like in the moment, maybe, but things always resolve themselves in person. I'm somebody with a little bit of a snappy temper sometimes,
Yeah.
but I'm very quick to cool off and cool down. So I don't really take anything too personally anyway. But when it comes to online stuff, which is like a very new territory that I like tread into after post drag race, I fell into this like online space where you see all these people talking shit online in like mass amounts. And in that case, you can't see them. You're reading these comments, you're like, these people don't know me. Like, this is crazy. You know what I mean? It's completely different from having beef with somebody in person. So, and people feel emboldened to say like the nastiest shit online. So in those cases, sometimes I will like read a comment and I do get peeved because these people are complete fucking assholes.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
but again, that's again like a learning curve and something that I have learned to always take with a grain of salt as well. So,
You could do the Oprah Winfrey and just turn off all comments, turn off all likes. Because at the end of the day, isn't it weird how we can be so thick-skinned and say the nastiest things to each other and laugh our asses off, and then some strangers online double down on something and it's just like getting punched in the stomach. And I think so many of us deal with that. So I'm sure relieving for a lot of people listening to hear that you're affected by that as well.
no, yeah, it does affect me. It doesn't affect me as much anymore, but I don't know. There's a lot to sort of consider with online too. It's what is appropriate to post versus not. Of course, we have that just natural gauge, but what parts of myself can I share and what parts should I not share? I feel like when it comes to what I'm doing now and this like dragscape, it gets a little confusing because I feel like my selling point, my brand is my personality and my personhood. So do I share everything or do I just keep it contained to shading people or like whatever it is that people expect out of me from their impressions of me on television. And I'm sure this is something that like a lot of like modern influencers, creators, artists deal with, since everything is so social media oriented and there are so many people in that space, micro influencers, if you will. But yeah, it's something that like I am questioning now too. You know what I mean? Like I obviously like want to grow and expand my reach, but how much do people really want to see and how much do they connect and resonate with?
I think what I'll say to that is my rule is that if I'm still processing something, it's not time to share it on social. So I kind of try to gauge whether it's still something I'm wrestling with, and I try not to use social as a platform to work it out. Like, I try not to use the platform to process. I try to use the platform for the nugget at the end of the processing so that if you do say something nasty to me, you're not confusing me because I'm in the middle of processing. Once you're clear, it's hard for someone to penetrate with something negative because you're like, well, I'm already clear on the answer here. But if you're not really clear, it's can be confusing, I think. And I relate to that. I used to style the Drag Race promos. I did the first 6 seasons of TV ads and billboards with all the queens,
Oh, really?
and yeah, that was, like, one of my first jobs as a stylist. Every queen would get their own look that we had to design from scratch for the promos because the queens weren't really bringing things from home at the time, and at the time, designers would not loan to the show. There was so much homophobia. It was crazy. Nobody wanted to touch the show. And to watch the show grow and evolve into this thing where people are throwing their clothes at you guys, and so supportive. Do you feel like drag has evolved, and do you think as a culture we've evolved with that in terms of acceptance?
Yes. It's hard to gauge. Of course, I think Drag Race has definitely opened a lot of people's eyes to drag. And I feel like in a lot of ways, yes, but in a lot of ways, like now we're also taking steps backwards. We just are. I feel like the stronger a force, the stronger the opposing force gets as well. That's what we're seeing now is that there was such a like quick burst of support and like explosion of, positive feelings for drag that, of course it's getting counterbalanced by like the negative sentiments. And I don't want to like necessarily make political statements. Like I'm just saying that there are people who don't get it, don't like it, don't even want to learn about it. Like they have made up their minds on it and they're pushing their own sort of notions and agendas like onto it, and that's colliding very fiercely right now with the drag that we've cultivated. So of course there's been a boom, but I feel like now it's like I'm a little bit worried because there are so many more working drag queens now, and now is not the time that I would like to be seeing any pushback. I would like to be seeing more opportunities for everybody and more and more and more, but I feel like we're scaling back now, and that's unfortunate to see. That's just my
It
opinion.
is. In your personal journey as things become more oppressive and harder to cope with, do you think there's ever a risk of wanting to be plain more often than Andrew? Is there ever a risk of losing yourself in Plane because Plane is such a great escape from the reality of the world as Andrew?
I see what you mean. I don't think that's the direction that I'm heading in. No, I don't think so. I think that even though the world may be backwards, honey, I am never going back on my end.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, I don't see that happening. I think my natural progression has been getting more and more comfortable being Andrew and plain Jane really being like a vehicle for that. So yeah, I don't see myself resorting more to drag. I only see myself feeling more and more secure of myself as Andrew because I'm not letting that external bullshit affect me. I'm growing into like adulthood. I am arguably an adult, a very like young, youthful looking one, of course, with like the
Very
most sickening
young.
hairline. But yeah, I feel like it's part of life to be able to take a stand for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I came from not being able to defend myself at all, not finding a single reason to be on my own side, from hating myself essentially, to now where I don't. And there are no external forces that could possibly bring me back to that space where I was. You know what I mean?
How did you get here? What, like, if someone's listening and they're thinking, I don't like myself or I don't feel confident in myself, obviously playing has been a vehicle for that. But specifically, what do you think you attribute that journey to?
Just taking a leap of faith. It's like a journey within yourself, of course. You have to really like figure out who you are. It's a lot of the work is internal and a lot of it is personal reflection and self-discovery. Who are you and what does that mean? So once you sort of have a grasp on that, the next step would be to take the leap of faith in expressing that to the world, showing the world who you are. And once you cross that threshold, you'll realize that the world is not so scary.
Mm.
And I personally found that, of course, there have been some big leaps like that for me. And there are some smaller ones. I feel like life is like an interlinking thing of these small sort of like thresholds that we cross. We can get into it, honey, because I have thought about this. I've given a lot of thought to like Mama Ru's gospel. She preaches about the inner saboteur. And her theory is that the inner saboteur is trying to kill you and limit you and stifle you and beat you down and not let the real you shine, not essentially impede your success. But I think that it can be a healthy balance because I don't think your inner saboteur is a saboteur. I think it's just the other part of your survival instinct that is essentially that wants to keep you safe, that wants to keep you safe from the scary outside world. There's one part of you wants to live and wants to be free and get the most out of life and explore. And the other part of you wants to keep you safe and it wants to keep you in that space that it may not be a space where you can walk around and be yourself outwardly, but it's a space within that is, you're not going to get hurt. You know what I mean? But again, like where it can become a saboteur is where that feeling sort of overwhelms and overpowers the urge to like live life to the fullest and to essentially share yourself with the world in a way that can benefit other people. Self-sabotaging, in my opinion, very self-centered. It becomes a very self-centered thing not to share yourself with the world because it's not contributing to the evolution of the species.
And it's true.
Yeah, yeah. Again, I feel like I went off on an insane tangent, but
No, you're actually quite in flow right now. So I want to just stay
okay.
here for a second. Um, my experience of the inner saboteur is also sometimes trauma or kind of being hijacked by an old experience that's trying to come back and take me in the moment. But I do believe, like you're saying, there's like a safety mechanism to it. And ultimately, it's important we look at it and move through it so that we can share ourselves with the world. You obviously have an amazing ability to share yourself with the world in this really extroverted, big, campy way. But what you're sharing with me right now feels like you're sharing something like smaller and more tender inside internal feeling that is so human and so stunning that to me the best queens can do both. And if you can't go there in this kind of tender conversation, to me it's where is that drag even coming from? It's got to come from something, and I wonder about, do you think that you need dark parts in yourself to be a great drag queen? Do you need to be in touch with those things?
I do in a way. Yes, I think so. That's a good question actually because I think there are a lot of surface level skills that can make a great entertainer. And if you're a talented makeup artist, if you're a talented performer, those things to me can translate to somebody being a great drag queen. But when it comes to being somebody that people look to, not just to say Yas Queen and throw dollars at them, but as somebody they can really get behind and support and be a fan of, then yes, I feel like in order to be a star, you have to be in touch with the darker parts of yourself. And that's what I value in a drag queen too, is that's that self-awareness and introspection. Even though, of course, I live for just, of course, I'm a gay faggot honey that lives for the 1 2s and the 3 4s. But yeah, my favorite drag queens are the ones that let us into their thinking and their vulnerability, because that is what inspires me to share more of myself and to continue doing drag.
The vulnerability in going to the dark place that you're talking about to be a great queen or to be a star is the same, as cheesy as it sounds, as the vulnerability and the ability to go there to be a great person or partner or husband or wife. If you're not able to do those things, you're probably just going through the motions as a partner. You're not actually fully present, fully embodied. And you've said ChatGPT is your therapist. So I do want to talk a little bit about that and sort of what was the last thing you asked Chat?
What was the last thing I asked Chat? Let me actually
Please look.
let me look. I've never had a therapist. So the fact that there is now like essentially a semi-sentient shoebox that I can talk to, like just this thing that just spews words back at me. I'm like, okay, now I have a place I can at least like journal, you know what I mean? What did I ask? I asked Chat GPT, what is Leslie Mann up to? That was the last thing I
No,
asked
you
Chat.
didn't. What did Chat say? That's a wonderful question, Andrew, I'm sure, right? Validate you first. Okay, go.
Chat gave me a detailed update on what Leslie Mann is up to, because I was like, I haven't seen Leslie Mann in a while. What is she doing? Like, is she in?
Oh my god.
And it gave me like a detailed rundown. But no, I keep tabs, honey, on ChatGPT is how I keep tabs on the people that I'm interested in pop culture.
Right, okay, I love that. Okay, so a couple final questions. Plain Jane is a play on many different puns, many different things, but I was thinking plane and flight, and you have a lot of flight punning going on. So, takeoff, turbulence, and landing, where are you in your journey right now?
Ooh, wow. The way you phrased that was so cunt. I liked it. I am a mother, a single mother of 8. And it's hard. It's hard raising my kid without their father present. I've been suffering a little bit of stress alopecia, honey. I have a little bald spot going on, but it's all good. I give them their scrambled eggs in the morning, and I do my best as a mom. But
Mhm.
other than that, I am quite literally in my physical journey moving through this realm. I'm actually planning on a move soon because I'm still in Boston, and I want to move to LA. I think what I might do is sublet and scope out the area first, but part of me kind of wants to be like, fuck it, I'm just gonna drop all this cash on a fucking condo. Like, why not? But yeah, no, I just wanna and it's hard too after Drag Race, like figuring out what's what and what to do. Because I had this big tunnel visioned goal and dream of getting on Drag Race. It was like reaching the pearly gates of heaven. And then afterwards, I'm like, huh? Like what? Well, what do I do, honey? I'm just used to popping pussy on stage for dollar bills. Now I'm expected to do all these sorts of new things. But I do think that, you know, I think that I have a some sort of divine like spirit guide. And I think that I am being guided along on a journey, and I'm truly like incapable of flopping. It's not that I'm particularly like religious or anything. Like and my parents are secular too, but I feel like every time that I am in a rut, something good always happens. So I feel like I've learned to go easier on myself and accept the fact that I am an icon. I'm a legend and I am the moment. And something good is always on the horizon for me. Like something great is always in the works. And next year I just want to be in LA when the chaos of House of Villains starts unraveling, because I filmed that this past summer, and I want to make sure that I'm in like the epicenter of the entertainment industry when all that goes down. and just keep doing what I love to do. And that's really all I want. So that's where I am in my journey, is just in a little bit of a transitionary stage of leaving my hometown, because I've been here for a long time, girl.
She's got that layover in Boston. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Before I let you go, can you tell me a little bit about that moment when you touched the sun, reached the goal of Drag Race, had that
mhm.
singular point of view, and then you had to come down to earth when the show's over and say, like, okay, what's next? And I think so many people listening, that's what they're wrestling with, is like, what is next? What is that pivot? So obviously starting with the optimism of everything is always working out in my favor. But then how do you get through that period?
A lot of antidepressant. No, I'm kidding.
Uh-huh. Xanax, yeah.
Yeah, pills and potions. I don't really have a blanket answer for that. I feel like it just, you're in it now, babes. There were moments where I felt a little, and there still are moments where I feel a little bit lost. But my advice to myself and to anybody else who may be listening is just keep going. Just keep going. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other and keep going, and don't lose yourself. Don't wander off and start looking at what other creatives are doing, paying too much attention to comments on social media. Just stay in tune with who you are and let that guide you. Let who you are and what you want to do and who you want to be and what you want to show to the world. That feeling of self-expression and freedom, that lust for it, just guide you, and just keep moving anywhere, somewhere, whatever that may look like for you. Whatever you accomplish, you will always have that. No, go forth and be you, honey. Be you. And that is how I was so successful in Drag Race too, is I had prior experiences in other drag competitions, local drag competitions, where I got a little bit too in my head about the prompt. What is expected of me? What do people want to see? And because of those experiences and how the fact that they did not work out for me, I went on Drag Race
Mhm.
and I was unapologetically my fucking self. And I think I'm just letting that energy guide me through the rest of it.
Thank you so much for your vulnerability to be you, to be Plain and Andrew in one moment, integrated, and to share all of that with us. I really do think that you specifically, and also drag, give everybody else in the world the ability to be more of themselves. So thank you so much for coming on the show today and for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Plain Jane, and I'm a recovering sex addict.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of The Recovering Elitist. Our show is produced by Christopher Michael, Kelsey McWilliams, and Sasha Grinblatt, with audio post-production by Griffin James. Special thanks to Chase Coughlin for our original theme music and Justin Teodoro for our original artwork. We'd really like to hear from you. What are you recovering from? We hope you'll join the conversation on Instagram or at therecoveringelitist.com, and we hope you'll like and subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts for new episodes each and every week. Thank you for listening.